and we're kicking off today with SmackDown, as this Friday's show was taped in advance last week, given that the WWE roster will soon be traveling to Riyadh for Crown Jewel. For the show that'll air on November 3rd, Roman Reigns and LA Knight had an in-ring promo to build towards their Crown Jewel showdown, and there was quite the line from the Tribal Chief. Making a reference to Knight being compared to The Rock with his promo style, Reigns didn't hold back as he asked, "What have you done around here in the past few months? The only thing you've done is make them chant your name. And what? Cosplay a redneck version of my cousin?" It's interesting that Reigns gave this line, given that there are still rumors of a match between himself and The Rock down the line, but for now, the Tribal Chief's focus is on LA Knight and retaining the undisputed WWE Universal Championship at Crown Jewel. As we all know, the Anoa'i wrestling family extends far past those we see each week in WWE, and now one member of the family has become a free agent. Yesterday, news broke that Lance Anoa'i, alongside his Samoan SWAT team ally Juicy Finau, had requested their release from MLW, and that request has been granted by the company. Lance's most recent match for MLW was in July, and his departure comes after reports of tensions between himself and MLW earlier this year that the two sides were trying to fix. On Twitter, Lance confirmed his release and thanked MLW for the opportunities he was granted, and if he joins WWE, it wouldn't be the first time we'd see him on programming. During Shane McMahon and Drew McIntyre's feud with Roman Reigns in 2019, Lance was brought in and faced McMahon on the May 27th episode of Raw in a losing effort. After the match, Lance was attacked by McMahon and McIntyre before being saved by Reigns, and the free agent has spoken about possibly becoming a WWE superstar. Just last week, Lance said that he does see himself as part of the Bloodline one day, and that's a whole lot more possible now that his time with MLW has come to an end. This Saturday, WWE will host its annual Crown Jewel event in Riyadh with Roman Reigns, Logan Paul, Seth Rollins, Bianca Belair, LA Knight, and Rey Mysterio, just some of the names announced. As expected, WWE is stacking the card for the show, but while Mysterio will be in Riyadh to defend his US title, at least one of his LWO allies won't be joining him. For the first time ever, WWE is booking a US house show on the same day as a Saudi Arabia event, meaning that many names won't be making the trip overseas, but rather staying in America. It's been confirmed that Carlito will be part of the November 4th live event in Rochester, New York, and Becky Lynch, Gunther, Shinsuke Nakamura, and Ricochet are all being promoted for the event. Interestingly, Io Sky has been promoted for the New York show for weeks, and despite this, it was announced on SmackDown that she'll defend her title against Bianca Belair at Crown Jewel. Of course, Sky can't be in two places at once, so will likely have been pulled from the New York event, and while Crown Jewel will be big, it'll go ahead without many notable names. Thanks to social media, fans have never been more connected to their favorite wrestlers, often getting to see the personal lives of stars, and possibly even communicate with them. This week though, Mia Yim revealed that somebody went too far when it comes to her private life, as on Twitter, she revealed that an Uber Eats driver tried to force himself into her home. Yim thanked Shayna Baszler, who had encouraged her to keep certain items, presumably deterrents like pepper spray, in all of her rooms, which came as a relief to fans concerned about the incident. While Yim thankfully avoided a potential home invasion, her story is a reminder of the unwanted challenges public figures face, even within the confines of their own home. It was only a few years ago that Sonya Deville was the victim of an attempted kidnapping, and while Philip A. Thomas didn't succeed, this horrifying ordeal would shock the wrestling community. As for Yim, she is focused on her WWE career, and has said on Instagram she hopes to be cleared for an in-ring return in 2024, and we are wishing her the best after this scary ordeal. During the formative years of AEW, Luther was signed by the promotion, and in addition to his work on screen, has also been a beneficial hand backstage. Luther's last TV match was part of a tag team battle royal back in July, and while he is still with the company, he has quietly undergone a serious change. On AEW's official roster page, the longtime friend of Chris Jericho is now known as Luther, which isn't a massive change, but his nickname is now The Butler on the website. That's quite a shift from the previous Chaos Project team with Serpentico that Luther was a part of, and we'll have to see what the Butler brings to AEW when he returns to TV with this new character. Speaking of missing AEW talent, Abaddon returned to programming during the most recent episode of Collision, but was unsuccessful in challenging AEW Women's World Champion Hikaru Shida. Given Abaddon's ghoulish appearance, it made sense for the wrestler to be used so close to Halloween, but the return of Abaddon was reportedly a last-minute decision. Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful Select reports that Abaddon is back in the fold with AEW after previously being sidelined with an injury and was only cleared to wrestle on the Wednesday before Collision. Whatever injury Abaddon had, it wasn't bad enough to force the bizarre wrestler to miss a year of TV, and Sapp added that he can't speak as to why Abaddon missed so much time off of programming. Abaddon had last competed for AEW in a dark match back in June and returned to the ring after a 4-month absence at Revolver's show the week prior, but still had to be cleared by AEW. Now that Abaddon is back in the fold, fans should expect to see much more of the wrestler on TV, but it remains to be seen what's in store after returning on Collision. On last week's Collision, Kenny Omega didn't just want to end MJF's reign as AEW World Champion, but wanted to end his chances of breaking Omega's record for the longest title reign. Unfortunately for the cleaner, neither of those happened, as MJF retained the gold, but MJF had some kind words after Collision went off the air. Speaking to the crowd, MJF further cemented his face turn by praising the efforts of Omega and the Elite and referenced the bidding war that he has been teasing for some time. He said, "Without Kenny Omega, without the Young Bucks, without Cody Rhodes, and without Tony Khan, he might be a mark, but he's a visionary. All Elite Wrestling does not exist. Therefore, your world champion, Maxwell Jacob Friedman, does not exist. I still don't know what I'm going to do for the bidding war of 2024, but what I do know is that when I get the opportunity to wrestle the best bout machine Kenny Omega, it tends to sway my opinion a little bit." MJF will break Omega's record for the longest title reign next week, but his reign could be snuffed out soon enough, as he'll be defending the gold against Jay White at Full Gear. Factor in that Samoa Joe has made it clear that he plans to capture the AEW World title soon, and it's clear that while MJF will break the record, his run with the gold is in serious jeopardy. But what do you make of MJF's comments, and where do you think he should go in the upcoming bidding war for his services? Let us know down in the comments. For years, Steve Austin proved himself in the ring, and in his later years would ride to the ring in an ATV, and this week, the former WWE champion proved himself behind the wheel once again. On Instagram, Austin revealed that he has won his first off-road race of the season, and thanked his co-driver Shane Kissman for helping in what the Rattlesnake called a hell of a race. Together, Austin and Kissman raced their vehicle, which of course has 316 branding, 350 miles from Virginia City to Tonopah over rocky terrain that proved to be no match for the Rattlesnake. Questions remain as to whether Austin will wrestle again, with fans hoping to see him compete at WrestleMania 40, and whether that happens or not, Austin is having tons of fun in his off-road racer. Since returning to WWE, John Cena has been granted a new nickname on TV, as whenever he appears, he is often referred to on commentary as the greatest of all time. This new moniker comes at a time when Cena has been expressing some self-doubts, even acknowledging that he hasn't won a singles PLE match since 2018 and hopes to win at Crown Jewel. According to Fightful Select, Cena's new nickname isn't just for programming, as in official listings backstage, Cena is indeed listed as the greatest of all time. A 16-time world champion and company ambassador who's granted more Make-A-Wishes than anyone else, it's hard to agree that Cena doesn't have a claim to indeed being the GOAT. Whether Cena can break his unfortunate losing streak at PLEs against Solo Sikoa, time will tell, but win, lose, or draw, Cena is indeed the greatest of all time, according to those within WWE. Since his departure from AEW, CM Punk has been appearing as a commentator at MMA events, specifically for the Cage Fury Fighting Championship promotion. Next month, UFC lightweight champion Anthony Pettis is hosting the Anthony Pettis Fight Night in Milwaukee, and fans attending can expect to see the best in the world. Punk is one of the notable names advertised for the show, though there's no indication that Punk will be fighting, and he won't be the only notable name at the show. Nate Diaz, Frank Mir, and former TNA wrestling star Rampage Jackson will be at the event, as will illusionist Chris Angel of Mind Freak fame. With over 15 fights set for the show, fans attending will have plenty of action to watch, and will also have the chance to see Punk at the upcoming MMA event. Back to WWE, and in 2019, Baron Corbin and Lacey Evans had their set sight on real-life couple Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch, who held the Universal and Raw Women's titles at the time. The feud culminated in a mixed tag match at Extreme Rules for all the gold, and perhaps the most infamous spot of the match and possibly the show saw Baron Corbin level Lynch with End of Days. WWE rarely shows male violence against women, especially in a high-profile match like this, and on Insight, Corbin shared what exactly went into the spot and the hostile response he received. He said, "That was Vince's idea. I was shocked when I got to the building, and it was in Philly, which I knew they were gonna go nuts for. It was just like crazy, and like the death threats after all, worth it, totally worth it. Like my Instagram messages and Twitter and all of those things, people were like, dude, I'm gonna stab you the next time I see you for what you did to Becky. People buy into what we do. That's the art of what we do. We can suspend disbelief. We make people think that what we're doing is 100% real, and then people bought into that moment. They're like, a grown man put his hands on a woman. I want to fight that guy." And invoked this rage in people, and it was awesome. Of course, this spot would not have gone ahead without Lynch being open to taking the move, so fans should be aware that this was hardly the violent act some tried to make it seem. In the end, Lynch and Rollins retained, only for Seth to lose his gold to Mr. Money in the Bank Brock Lesnar, but it was Corbin's End of Days that still stands out as the biggest spot of the night. More from Crown Jewel, where Roman Reigns will defend the undisputed WWE Universal Championship against LA Knight at Crown Jewel, and despite Knight's popularity, many are backing the Tribal Chief. The consensus among many fans is that Knight will be leaving Riyadh empty-handed, but even if he doesn't win, Knight can still benefit his career greatly, even in defeat. That's according to Tommy Dreamer, who during Busted Open Radio said it's unlikely Knight will receive another title shot soon, so he needs to make this performance in Riyadh count. On camera, he's got a presence, and this is his shot. He says it's his first shot. WWE, they get Cody, Roman Reigns beat him. LA Knight, the people were so hot for him. Roman Reigns beat him. This is his one opportunity to make it. Will it continue afterwards? Sure, but right now, if you look at the scheduling of events, I don't see him getting another opportunity. So you gotta try and capitalize now, and with t-shirts and all that stuff he's been doing, he's doing it. Even if Knight doesn't win the title, showing he can deliver in a main event setting against Reigns can only help his career and give WWE another reason to consider putting a world title on him down the line. Crown Jewel marks Knight's first world title opportunity in WWE, and while it's expected he'll lose, the real question is whether it'll be his last or if he'll prove himself to management. Since his transformation into the Tribal Chief, Roman Reigns has become WWE's #1 heel, a turn that has done wonders for his career, but the Bloodline leader still has a softer side. During last week's SmackDown, Reigns was all business as he built towards his Crown Jewel match, but before the show, the champ was working with the Make-A-Wish Foundation. In footage making rounds online, Reigns can be seen meeting a young fan called Alan, who has dealt with multiple bypass surgeries due to his medical complications. Alan was gifted a copy of a WWE 2K game and a replica championship, and this Make-A-Wish is Reigns' second in the last 2 weeks. Roman Reigns knows all about medical problems as he's beaten leukemia twice, and while he may be as serious as it gets on TV, there's a soft center to Roman Reigns' hard shell. It's safe to say that wrestling fans can be a tribal bunch at times, and when one fan attended last week's AEW Collision, she found that out firsthand. Taking to Twitter, the fan in question said that she mentioned Roman Reigns while in the crowd at Collision and received plenty of stares from others at the show that left her fearful. Clearly, those in the crowd didn't take too kindly to WWE's top star being referenced at an AEW show and made that very clear with their glares. The irony of all this is that wrestlers have often said that fans shouldn't be so tribal and should let people enjoy what they want, and hopefully that message will get through to the fans one day. Whenever WWE goes to the UK, the local crowd often have tons of unique chants for the superstars, and when WWE arrived in London this past week, things proved to be no different. To the tune of DJ Otzi's one-hit wonder Hey Baby, fans serenaded Bayley with chants, so much so that the role model had to step away from her match to address the fans. On Twitter, one fan who attended said that the show was slightly delayed because of the chant, and Bayley's demand for the fans to shut up only made them carry on. In the second match of the night, Shotzi would defeat Bayley, though we imagine that the Damage Control member will chalk this loss up to being distracted by the UK fans. Last Saturday, Jon Moxley made an appearance for Over the Top Wrestling after his appearance in March was nixed by AEW so he could compete at the first House Rules show. For Moxley, his return to OTT comes years after his last appearance, and not only did he emerge victorious, but he also poked fun at his string of concussions after the match. After defeating OTT talent Be Cool in a hardcore match, Moxley acknowledged that he has a tendency to get KO'd a lot, as he told the fans, "It's so nice to hear your voices live and in person, Dublin. This day has been 3 years in the making, but I finally made it here. And just like any night, whether it's Monday, Tuesday, Friday, Saturday, I around. I do this unless I get knocked out every night. I thank you all for welcoming here to OTT." While Moxley may see the funny side of things, many have argued that AEW style is too rough, hence why top names such as Moxley and Bryan Danielson are often getting hurt. It was just last week that Danielson suffered another injury expected to keep him out for the rest of the year, but for Moxley, he can at least laugh about things, even if he may struggle to remember them. Speaking of AEW injuries, Danhausen has been out of action since Revolution in March, but recent vignettes have been teasing his impending return. Now it has been confirmed that Danhausen will make his return on next week's Dynamite, though there's no word on who he'll face. On Twitter, Danhausen shared a photo of a bridge in Louisville, Kentucky, confirming his role with next week's show in Louisville, where fans will be pleased to see the very nice, very evil wrestler. Last week, Impact Wrestling held its first tour of the UK in years, and also brought back its Gut Check Challenge, which resulted in Harley Hudson earning a contract with the promotion. In addition to Hudson, who has been impressing on the UK scene, 19-year-old prodigy Leon Slater has also been signed, and fans can expect big things from the pair in the future with TNA Wrestling. It's been just over a month since WWE and UFC were officially merged into one and TKO Group Holdings was launched, and backstage, things have been feeling very different. Since the launch, we've seen talent and staff in WWE lose their jobs, while Vince McMahon was pulled from creative by Ari Emanuel, and that change has led to things running more smoothly. That's according to a report from Fightful Select, who note that things have been much clearer since the launch of TKO and are reminiscent of a time without Vince McMahon. They report, "Talent that we spoke to since our article about WWE Creative was published say that things have been much more straightforward since the TKO merger and are more like they were in the last half of 2022 as opposed to the first 9 months of 2023. It was after McMahon retired last year that reports came out of talent and staff feeling more relaxed and genuinely feeling excited to be going to work without the chairman being around. Those feelings quickly went away when Vince returned, but now, while he's still with WWE, those in creative are pleased that they've hopefully dealt with McMahon's meddling for the last time." And we're ending with tonight's Raw as the Alpha Academy issued an open challenge to any tag team for a match, and that challenge has been accepted, but not by a main roster duo. Instead, Julius Creed took to Twitter to make it clear that he accepts Chad Gable's challenge, which will come just 24 hours before a huge match for the Creed brothers. After competing on Raw, the Creeds will be part of a Tables, Ladders, and Scares match at NXT Halloween Havoc Night 2, where they'll face Angel Garza and Humberto Carrillo. This is the latest crossover from NXT and WWE's main roster, and the Creeds will have multiple opportunities to show their talents next week with booking on back-to-back shows.